Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful 24th of May, 2024. Coming up this Friday's edition of the CRUSTY podcast, episode 283, Calls of Desperation. That's right. The Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, and of course, more from Karina Gold and their false accusations and their gaslighting and blah, blah, blah. Well, they're typical BS when it comes to governance of this country. All that and more come up the podcast. Please, ladies and gentlemen, stick around. Viewer discretion is advised because I will swear. I do make funny faces, make my mockery of these leaders, and I might smoke the odd cigarette. See you in a bit.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me.
Yes, sir.
There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
From Western Canada, this is the CRUSTY CANUCK podcast, a Canadian veteran's point of view on political, social, economic issues and life. Here's CRUSTY.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 283 of the CRUSTY CANUCK podcast. I'm your host, CRUSTY CANUCK, and this podcast is brought to you in part and supported by the Veterans for Freedom Network. Stand to, that's right. Link in the description, Veterans for Freedom, and coming soon, Veterans for Freedom Television. Yours truly and other like-minded veterans and other like-minded Canadians. We're going to probably be on a network sometime soon, but stay tuned for Veterans for Freedom Television. Hi, everybody. I'm your host, CRUSTY CANUCK. Hope you've had a good Friday so far. I'm still working, but the weekend's here, so you light out there, crack a beer, relax, give your loved one a good kiss or two, whatever, and just chill out and enjoy this weekend right now. I'm on my work schedule, so I'll be working tomorrow, Sunday, up until next Friday. If you'd like to hear what you see, please click like, subscribe, share this podcast all over your social media platforms. Don't be shy. Let me know how you really feel. Give me a comment or two, thumbs up, comment, like, all that good stuff. Get the algorithm out there. Help us Canucks get our words out there. So as the title card said, calls of desperation. So past couple of days have been pretty interesting in regards to liberal politicians in this country. You've already heard me ramble on about Karina Gold. She's on maternity leave, and she's talking about Pierre Poilievre taking away people's freedoms and all this stuff. And, of course, the abortion issue comes up, too. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't want to offend anybody. Now, that is not my intention. I don't care what you do with your body. Okay? I don't care if a female decides to have an abortion. The question is, do I agree with it or not? No, I don't agree with it. But I'm not going to sit there and say to you, you cannot do this and you cannot do that because I do this. So who am I to tell any sane person what to do with their body? Now, we've seen what's happened over the past few years, especially during the pandemic, what every man, woman, and child was told to do with their body. Okay? Yeah. Not one, but two. In some cases, three of those jibby jabs, right? So, when it comes to the abortion issue in this country, I honestly have yet to meet any politicians that are sitting in parliament or sitting in provincial or any other legislature whatsoever in this country stand firmly against the abortion issue. Okay? I thought we got over this shit back in the 1980s and part of the 90s. But I guess there's still some diehard liberals out there that want to hang on for dear life and try to make the opposition look like the bad guys. Now, I'm going to play a couple of videos here from Lord Gunter and from Brian Lilly from The Sun, and they summarize it pretty good, pretty quick. You can see how every liberal leader is desperate to get some kind of slam and accusation out there towards the opposition. Now, that's the opposition's job, by the way. Now, when you hear these politicians speak about how they're anti-this and anti-that, and even Ms. Freeling the other day, saying that Pierre Poilievre wears more makeup than she does, you see it's desperate times. It was quite funny. But you're like, okay, here's this lady who's supposed to be educated in the sense of business and finance, and she's across the hallway saying, well, you wore more makeup than I do. It's like you're in a high school hallway on who's wearing a pair of Doc Martens or who's wearing a polo shirt or who's dressed the best for this, who's dressed the best for that. Is that what our politics has come to? Finger wagging and worrying about who's got makeup on or not? Right? Does it really effing matter? And the thing being, the way Miss Freeland and Mr. Trudeau and Miss Gould have talked, they make it sound like that Mr. Poilievre already has the power to bring these things to light. Right? I remember the same tactic when Paul Martin was prime minister. Okay. Now, he did bring a deficit down. Things got paid off. So financially, things were in pretty good light in his years in office. But he still screwed the military, still screwed a lot of veterans, and still took Canada's place in the world stage and turned it into more of a soft, gentler kind of Canada rather than an actual, we'll stand on guard for thee, and yet we can be soft when we need to be and hard when we should be. But I'm digressing. Make a long story short, the Martin government did the same thing when Harper was coming in for the 2006 election, putting ads up saying, oh my God, they're going to have troops in every city. Oh my God, they want military in every city. And yet people forget that every major city in this country technically has a military in it. They're called the militia. They're called the reserves. And those buildings they work out of are called armories, or garrisons, or however the unit may be. So there's always been a military presence in every major city in this country, one way or the other, right? You had these offices, you had these garrisons in every city for a very, very long time. So basically, they're taking something old and trying to make it something new to look like the good guys. And it's obvious these tactics haven't changed over the past few years because these libtards are doing the exact same thing. Oh, don't vote for PP. Don't vote for Pierre. Oh, never Pierre. Don't do this because he wants to bring back abortion. He wants to tell you what to do with your bodies. Even though a few short years ago, you liberals were doing the exact same thing, right? Funny how you forget that BS.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at CrustyCanuck.ca.
And you're back, ladies and gentlemen, with episode 283 of the Crusty Neck Podcast, Calls of Desperation. Yes, more liberals right again. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Crusty Neck. If you're just tuning in, thank you very much. And I especially want to thank everybody who has downloaded my last episode. I'm getting a few more from Australia. So well done, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen down in Australia. I'm getting a few more from California, from Kentucky, from Georgia. I visited Georgia once. This was years ago. But thank you very much to the people in Georgia for downloading. I think about 12 so far. So I know it doesn't sound bad, but it's better than nothing. So I'm grateful. So all my American friends out there who have downloaded the show, thank you. You guys are awesome. More Canadians downloading. I'm getting some more Brits, some more Irish, some Dutch, some German, a couple of French, Nigerians, Lithuanians, Estonians, some Spanish, I believe, too. So thank you from all over the world. Thank you very much. Thank you. Keep downloading. Share this stuff all over your social media platforms if you can, ladies and gentlemen. All aspects of the world, it doesn't matter. Get the podcast out there, get the words out there, so everybody gets a little bit of piece of Canadiana at your doorstep. Anyway, carrying on this episode. Yeah, so more calls of desperation. So Lauren Gunter put together a good video for the Toronto Sun there. So I want you to listen and just assess accordingly, ladies and gentlemen, because we all know every election cycle, prior to every election, during an election, there's always the diehards this and diehards that. But let's be realistic now. We all know, especially my Canadian fan base, my Canadian listeners and viewers alike, that the Liberal brand has gone downhill. Big time. Why? Because people just go along to get along, right? And I got a few comments out there to people that have been on my X feed, my Twitter feed. Okay. I just like to reinstate, okay, I'm not a Mason. I'm not religious. I'm not affiliated with any religious organization or any kind of cult or any kind of despot situation that makes you look for conspiracy theories when there isn't any. This is my religion, motherfucker, or motherfuckers who want to stir the pot. And you are more than welcome to engage me in any kind of sound debate, either via Zoom or chat, whatever, on Facebook. I don't care. You want to engage me in something, you get your facts straight. You have your point, your proof, and your explanations, and then your conclusion. Kind of like what a prosecuting attorney does, or what a defense attorney does, or when you're trying to prove something in front of a classroom of your peers or enemies, you formulate that to prove yourself right or to be corrected. You see what I'm getting at here? So those individuals on the Twitter feed who want to call me a Mason or Masonic or something about the devil, up yours. You want to engage me in a conversation? You can. You're more than welcome to. But calling my followers and calling my fellow veterans and calling anybody that spent time in the Canadian forces who put their asses on the line for something bigger than your potluck dinner, you're going to be sadly mistaken, and you're going to be one hurting mofo. Verbally, that is. Anyway, I'll carry on. So, as I was saying, Calls of Desperation. Lauren Gunter has an excellent little 4-minute video there explaining his point of view on why there's so much desperate tactics out there. And I'll cue it up for you here, ladies and gentlemen. It's just interesting how people are still hanging on to dear life, to the whole to the whole desperate, and believe that their God is something sensational, something wonderful. But I'd like to remind all you wonderful people out there too that politicians aren't gods. They're just men and women. And unfortunately, some of our leaders today tend to be a little more sensitive than what some of our forefathers and their predecessors were at one time. So you decide, ladies and gentlemen.
Liberal Party of Canada voters must be just about the most gullible political supporters on the face of the planet. Every time an election rolls around, they let their leaders fearmonger. They let their leaders talk about how, if you elect the Conservatives, they'll have a secret agenda to privatize healthcare. They'll have a secret agenda to outlaw abortion. They'll have a secret agenda to curtail the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. You can't. It's too scary. You can't vote for those people because you never know when they're going to take your rights away. I mean, this from a party that in 2022 suspended civil rights for all Canadians because there were truckers in downtown Ottawa honking their horns for 3 weeks. They seized bank accounts for people who had the temerity to speak out in favor of the convoy. And yet somehow the Conservatives would be a bigger threat to civil rights than the Liberal Party. The epitome of this was last Thursday in Winnipeg when the Prime Minister gave a speech to a fundraising dinner where people had paid nearly $2,000 a plate to attend. And he subjected them to a harangue about exactly the things I'm talking about. If you follow Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, he's going to take away abortion rights. If you follow them, they're going to take away transgender rights. They're going to suspend the Charter. Oh, my goodness. Now, I think Trudeau actually believes those things, and I think an awful lot of Liberals actually believe them too, because they are not deep thinkers. They don't do a lot of critical thinking. They're easily herded into the scaremongering truck. But it's really early in the political cycle for a party to be doing this. That shows you how desperate the Liberals must be. In most polls, the Liberals are now 20 percentage points behind the Conservatives. That's an enormous gap. Pierre Poilievre is not particularly popular. His negatives outweigh his positives by 12 points. Jagmeet Singh's negatives outweigh his positives by 14 points. But Justin Trudeau's negatives are 38 points ahead of his positives. He is the least popular prime minister in modern Canadian history, and with good reason. He's run this country into the ground. Our standard of living in Canada now is lower than it has been in 40 years. One of the things that Trudeau said in his Winnipeg speech was, my goodness. My goodness. If you support the Conservatives under Pierre Poilievre, you're going to find housing is even more unaffordable than it is now. How in heaven's name can they say that? Since they came to power in 2015, house prices and rents have doubled in Canada. The national debt has doubled. Income has fallen about $300 a month short of where it should be. It is now about 1/3 below where incomes are in the United States. The Trudeau government is economically illiterate. It has run the country's economy into the ground. It has said, for instance, and one of my favorite examples is liquid natural gas, LNG. You've heard Trudeau say it many times. There's no business case for exporting Canada's LNG. Well, since he came to power in 2015, the Americans have built more than 20 LNG export facilities. We are close to finishing our first, but we still have built none under the Liberals. Does he really want us to believe that the Americans are too dumb to see that there's no business case for LNG? That's the way they think. They are so caught up in their woke causes like climate change that they cannot run a modern economy. Yet, time and again, Liberal voters have allowed themselves to be scared into staying with the Liberals. But it's interesting now that 17 months away from an election, they're already using their scare tactics. I think that's a sign of just how desperate the Liberals are. For Post Media, I'm Lauren Gunter.
Yeah, exactly. It shows how desperate they really are. They don't care. They just want to hang on to whatever power they have, and that's all there is to it. They don't give a royal rat's ass about anything that you and I do, what we pay for, how we do it. They really don't care, right? You've heard yourself. How many people out there still hang on to the dream? They're not gods. They're not. They might have some power because it's bestowed on them because they're elected, but look at what they've done with that power. Look what they're doing with the power right now. How much money you got in the bank now because of them? How have our bills skyrocketed because of them? The national debt because of them. The national debt. The national debt. The national debt. Now, Mr. Bill Blair is down in the States negotiating and trying to justify why Canada's not doing its part for the military. You've had 23 senators write letters saying Canada's got to step to the plate. 20 years ago, you'd have probably a majority of Canadians sitting there saying, oh, just mind your own damn business. But at least 20 years ago, we had a standing force and a force to be reckoned with, too. So you see that every aspect of the Liberal brand has branded itself into nothing but a poisonous, pussy, fucking sore. So it's time that we cut the sore, squeeze out the poison, and begin to heal.
Stay updated and follow CRUSTY CANUCK on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at CRUSTYCANUCK.ca.
And you're back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 283, Calls of Desperation. Yes, more Liberal desperation in regards to what the evil Pierre Poilievre is doing. The Crusty Guy podcast. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. If you like to hear what you see, please click like, subscribe, share this content on all of your social media platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to support the podcast, there's links in the description where you can support me. Use the Ask Me app. I'm trying that out. So the more you give, the more questions you ask, the more you give, the easier it'll get, and it'll help you get my content out there in a timely manner too, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to demand cash, but I would really, really appreciate some more donations coming down the pipe. That's just how I'm going to roll. Anyhow, carrying on this episode. So there's quite the dilemma too in the tough on crime issue. Okay. How many times in the past couple of years have we seen and heard about carjackings, liquor store robberies, and drive-by shootings, right? And just people not caring, right? And when you look at the bail system in this country, when you look how things are being done in the name of bail, how many people are released based on color? How many people are released based on culture? Right? Well, last fall, I believe, all the crimes going on in BC, and people are caught and released, caught and released, caught and released, caught and released. Right? The individual apparently that drove that van that robbed that liquor store in Bowmanville, who went in the opposite direction on the Highway 401, was already released on bail for a similar crime back in January. A month later, he's released. And now he's back at it again. But this time, he killed an elderly couple and their 3-month-old grandson. So what's it tell you about our justice system? right? What are these justices doing to stop the crime, to stop these issues? Now, are court judges now, are they woke? Are they getting woke? Are they doing that? Why? If so, why? Do their jobs have to be easier? Right? You heard that police constable there a few months back telling the citizens of Toronto, just leave your keys at the front, make it easier for the criminals because the criminals might be armed. I think that would be all the more reason for citizens to become armed. Wouldn't you? Right? What a novel idea. But see, then again, if you try to defend yourself in this country, you go to jail nonetheless. Right? So there's a dilemma there. Not that I'm encouraging people to be violent, right? But I am encouraging people to learn how to defend yourself and to stand up for what's right. Anyway, I'll keep up the video here from Brian Literally. He explains it in about 3 or 4 minutes on what's going on. And, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it just goes to show how much our leadership really cares and how much they really don't care, or what they're willing to do, what they're not willing to do. And we've seen the results, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of them aren't willing to go that extra distance. But now you decide amongst yourselves.
That they are there to protect the rights of criminals. Hi, I'm Brian Lilley, political columnist for the Toronto Sun. For the last little while, the Liberals have been pushing hard that Pierre Poilievre wants to take away their rights, your rights. What are they talking about? Well, it was a couple of weeks ago. Pierre Poilievre was speaking to the Canadian Police Association when he said that if judges want to strike down laws about getting tough on criminals like multiple murderers having harsh sentences, he's willing to use the notwithstanding clause. That set the Liberals off. And now they're trying to say that they're trying to take away your rights. Here's Karina Gold, Liberal cabinet minister and high-ranking member of Trudeau's inner circle, just talking about that in a video posted this weekend.
2 weeks ago, Mr. Poilievre said the quiet part out loud. In speaking with the Canadian Police Association, he casually mentioned that he was going to make his own laws and use the notwithstanding clause to make them charter compliant. He basically said that he was going to start taking away the rights of Canadians.
You know what? I'm willing to bet that most Canadians are on board with pushing back against judges who have become far too lenient in striking down laws that get tough on criminals. And often, as I've documented in column after column, judges are now doing this, not based on the case before them, but they invent a hypothetical case and then say, now, in this instance, that would be that would not be charter compliant. And they strike down the law. That's not how things should operate. That's not how our courts should operate. And judges shouldn't have the ability to do that. Using the notwithstanding clause is actually part of the charter, by the way. It's section 33 of the charter, and anyone who uses it has to renew it after 5 years, which means they've got to go to the public. So if any politician goes too far, like the Liberals are telling them, well, you get voted out. You get voted out before it gets renewed. The Liberals don't have a clue on this issue. And if there's going to be an election on getting tough on criminals or being more lenient, I know which side the Canadian public is going to be on. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Share this on social media. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
And really, ladies and gentlemen, he nails it in the head. Self-explanatory. Right? So you're finding people not willing to mess with it, people willing to mess with it, but it's just they don't give a shit, right? So you can't keep throwing the racial identity in there. You can't keep throwing the whole cultural identity there, okay? Because what would happen, let's say, if you and I, you find yourself with your wife or your partner, you're in a foreign country, you break the law, okay? What happens? Right? Let's say you're in Romania, or let's say you're in Saudi Arabia. Let's say you're in Yemen. Let's say you're in Kuwait. Let's say you're in Iran, Iraq, Palestine, Lebanon. Let's say you're in India. Let's say you're in Thailand. What happens to tourists when they break the law? They get punished based on the country's laws, right? Now, let's say you immigrate to the United States. You break the law down there. What happens? Well, you get punished accordingly. You immigrate to Britain. What happens? You get punished accordingly. You immigrate to Germany. You get punished accordingly, right? So when you have a prime minister that's willing just to neglect the laws in this country, it keeps promoting the fact that he's never had to worry about a damn thing. And I would say at least 3/4 of his cabinet have had the same kind of lifestyle too. They haven't worried about anything. They've never had to struggle. I could be sympathetic to an individual that steals food from a grocery store. I can understand that. Still against the law because you're not just taking, a couple $100 worth of groceries. You're taking time and effort from staff, respectively. You're taking some money out of their pay, which makes it harder to keep things on the go. Now, if you with a few people and you steal a bunch of liquor, what's that mean? Do you really need that beer? Do you really need that vodka? Do you need that rye whiskey? Do you really need that? Hmm? You're punished. You knock over any liquor store, you knock over it for the sake of glory. You don't deserve it. I can understand if someone needs money, but the thing is, we have lost the common sense approach to things. I'm not trying to sound like Pierre Poilievre's conservatives here. I'm just talking about adult to adult here. We've lost the common sense approach, right? While people are still worried about guns in this country, right? Gun violence has gone up. Well, we worry about violence in the streets, worry about, inflation. Yet we've had people that keep borrowing money and spending it while there is crime in the streets. And not just because, a handful of individuals don't know. It's because a lot of those individuals really don't care. And they're encouraged by others to do the same thing. Just take it, just steal it. Let's get the racket going, right? Individuals sitting in PEI, temporary foreign workers, who want more, all become citizens, but they can't become citizens. So what do they want to do? Well, we're going to go on hunger strike if you don't give us what we want. Well, you're here temporarily. So technically, you're still a guest, right? So we're seeing the contrast here. We're seeing the bleeding hearts who will just back up anybody to look like they really care. The question is, what do you care about? What do you want to do? I want to see prosperity. I want to see people thrive. I'm a firm believer that everyone's welcome in Canada. Become a citizen. Become a citizen. And if it ends up taking a month, 3 months, 4 months, a year, so be it. But while you're doing that, do your part. Nothing wrong with raising a family. Nothing wrong with wanting a better life. Unfortunately, the idea of a better life in this country is getting farther and farther away. And it doesn't matter who you are, what color you are, what gender you are, how you identify. Because the powers that be that sit in the ivory towers in Ottawa are making it happen that way. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, I'm CRUSTY CANUCK on the 24th of May, 2024. There's nothing but good things for you all out there. It's a little short and sweet tonight. I've got things to do. However, pardon the eruption there too. I'll just do some nerve trying to get things done. Right, had to buy some parts for a lawnmower. So, it's working now, thankfully. Needless to say, it's done. But like I said, there's nothing but good things for you all out there. Do what you can have in these trying times, whether it's getting a bit warmer, so hydrate, what you have to do. Don't hesitate to give a neighbor a hand if he or she asks. And just do what we can to be kind to each other to the best of our ability. That is all. Anyway, I'll be around this Sunday for another episode on some topic to discuss. Once again, thank you all there to my new subscribers. Thank you everyone who's downloaded, especially my friends in the States and in Australia, Britain, Europe, all that good places. Well done, ladies and gentlemen. Awesome effort on your parts. And like I always say, ladies and gentlemen, humanity and merit wins the day. Take care, and I'll see you Sunday. Bye for now.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Yes, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
This has been another episode of the CRUSTY CANUCK podcast. Stay sane and thank you for listening. From Western Canada, this is the CRUSTY CANUCK podcast.
I'll show you my cooch for $7.99 plus GST.